Welcome back to cool and breezy Lake Mead. Now it's been about 200 days out here that we've had measurable rainfall in southern Nevada, but as you can see, that's all set to change this weekend, which is why we wanted to come out here today and show you around, give you a little update. Look how beautiful it is out here. We got some stories to cover today right here at Lake Mead and around the entire Southwest. A lot going on, so let's jump right in. We're over here on the far west side of Boulder Basin, where the Las Vegas wash dumps out into Lake Mead. And I'm in this area today for a specific reason. I'm going to tell you why in just a little bit, so make sure you stay tuned. As we head on down to the water line today, we're going to do a little walk and talk and go over some of the many things that have been unfolding since the last update. Of course, I'm sure by now everyone has seen and heard of the devastating firestorm that swept through LA and ravaged many neighborhoods there. If you haven't seen our video on that, check it out because it's going to explain how those firestorms might affect the Colorado River supply. That's a whole different issue though. We don't need to go over that again right now. But today we're going to look a little bit at the longer term effects that might have on the entire Southwest water supply. Now that is also going to tie in to this dry streak that we've been having here in the Southwest lately. Like I mentioned before, we are almost at 200 straight days without measurable rain. And it looked like we are going to break that. As you can see, it looks like there's some rain falling down here around Lake Mead. And that may actually be over on the Arizona side, it's hard to tell. But we've also been getting a lot of virga, which is rain that is falling at the higher altitudes. But by the time it gets down here, it's already evaporated, so we don't actually see that rain hit the ground. So that does not count as measurable rain. Now the dry streak wasn't the only thing that's been going around here in the Southwest. It had also been unseasonably warm and dry around Lake Mead in southern Nevada. In fact, till about just 2 weeks ago, when it dipped down into the 30s. And that was significant because that has been the lowest temperature on record since 2 years ago in the winter of 2022. And I think viewers of this channel especially all remember what happened in 2022. The record heat, low water levels, and drought followed that summer, and that led to some of the lowest water levels here at Lake Mead since it's been filled. Now, interestingly enough, we're actually supposed to rise back into the 70s in the coming weeks, which is unseasonably warm for this time of year like I just mentioned. Some weather outlets have even predicted that we are headed into a similar situation as the summer of 2022 due to the La Niña cycle. More on that in a little bit. For now, let's get into your Colorado River Watch water level update. Starting down here at Lake Mead, the water level currently sits at 1,066 feet above sea level, rising around 4 feet in elevation since our last report and gaining 1% total capacity. Lake Mead is about 6 feet lower than the same time last year, but around 20 feet higher than 2 years ago during the drought period. This was before the historic winter in 2023 flushed the mountains and reservoirs with huge snowpack gains. As we just discussed, it is unlikely we will see a repeat of that this year. Lake Mead is being supplied by Lake Powell upstream at an average weekly release rate of 11,800 cubic feet per second, while Lake Mead has been releasing slightly less at 7,700 cubic feet per second, the same release rate from last report. This is illustrated by the slight downtrend at Powell and simultaneous uptrend at Mead, as the USBR tries to maintain the reservoirs in equilibrium while they await the coming yearly snowpack. Looking upstream at Powell today, where the mountain snowpack will flow first, the water elevation sits at 3,566 feet above sea level, down 2% total capacity and dropping 9 feet in elevation since last report. The reservoir has now lost 21 feet of water elevation since the high level last summer. Despite this, Lake Powell is still 2 feet higher than the same time last year. As previously mentioned, we now wait to see what kind of snowpack materializes upstream this winter. Back here at Lake Mead, we're going to cover some hot topics that have been going on in the area. One of the biggest was the closure of Government Wash, a popular recreation and camping area. And where we're at right here, we're actually directly across from Government Wash. Now usually you'd see a bunch of RVs and trucks and people camping and fishing over there. But as you can see, those hills are all empty. Now despite the current dry spell and warm weather here in southern Nevada, many of you know that where the snowpack really counts is above these reservoirs, up in Utah and Colorado. The early season mountain snowpack has been a bit mixed. It's far below normal in much of the Southwest, like I just mentioned here in Nevada, but also including in Arizona and New Mexico. That picture is a bit brighter in the upper Colorado River Basin though. Above Lake Mead here and Lake Powell, the snowpack is at near to slightly above average, so that's a good thing at least. Despite this, a weak and short-lived La Niña cycle was expected to develop, and by some measures it's already here. The La Niña climate pattern, which features cooler than normal water in the eastern tropical Pacific Ocean, can influence a warmer and drier winter for the entire Southwest. This, of course, would not be good for Southern California, who was just devastated by fires and exhausted most of their water reserves. If that changes though, and we have a wet winter and spring, that may lead to even new problems in Southern California. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So far this season, most storms have been targeting the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. But there are growing signs that the storm systems could dip south before the end of winter. Despite this, California still remains in a sort of catch-22 with the winter. If they have a dry winter, their water supply, which has been exhausted by the fires, won't have ample time to get replenished in just one summer. However, if they were to have a wet winter and a wet spring, the new growing concern that I mentioned is that could lead to landslides over the burn scar areas from the fires. This, of course, would lead to a whole new type of devastation on the area, and one that would happen just around the time that everyone was getting to rebuild. Now, if you're wondering how the California fires could affect the Colorado River supply, then check out our whole separate video we did on the LA fires. You'll start to understand that Southern California is not water independent and hasn't been since its inception. This has caused all kinds of historic problems that have more or less been kicked down the road. And now it seems we're at the end of the line. Now, despite all those issues going on in Southern California, that's not to say that Las Vegas and Lake Mead here doesn't have its fair share of problems, as you can see. One of our most asked questions is, why doesn't anyone clean all that trash up? And the boat wrecks? Well, that's a very complex issue we've touched on in several previous episodes, but I'm going to do a brand new update about that, because there have been some changes and some updates since our last videos, and one of them is directly across from us right now, which is Government Wash. This area was a very popular camping and recreation area. Unfortunately, some people decided to go down there and overstay their welcome and basically live down there and trash it, and so the Park Service had to come in and shut it down. And now they're claiming it's going to take millions of dollars to fix all the illegal roads. And that's why I'm going to have to do a whole separate video on it by itself. So stay tuned and let me know down in the comments what you think. And folks, look at all the birds wintering over here today. Another issue here in southern Nevada that many residents will agree with is that the city is becoming overbuilt and lacks the proper infrastructure that it should provide its residents. And not surprisingly, Southern Nevada water use swelled in 2024. Despite homeowners converting 6.4 million square feet of natural grass last year to keep water use down, Nevada's water use swelled in 2024 compared with the previous year, according to preliminary estimates. The 2024 water use number represents a 25,300 acre-foot increase compared with 2023. Now that number is still well under Nevada's 300,000 acre-foot annual share of water from the Colorado River. Since nearly all indoor water in Las Vegas is recycled and makes its way back to Lake Mead via the Las Vegas Wash, where we're standing right now, it allows the Water Authority in Southern Nevada to draw more than its allocation for its communities by way of return use credits. Of course, despite all the water efficiency here in Las Vegas, the city is now running out of land to build and is constantly petitioning the federal government to release BLM land. This is another interesting issue we've covered previously. So despite cities having the resources, they still might not have the area to build out. This is sort of a unique problem here in Las Vegas because of the amount of public land that the federal government owns. Nevertheless, it's another issue the city will have to solve before it can continue growing at this rate. Now, I know I told you there's another reason I came down here. Well, that's because back in June 20 of 23, I came down this same wash, and it was during the height of the El Nino cycle. And I even made a video, and the title said El Nino incoming. Now, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, where we're standing right here, this is the end of the Las Vegas Wash. And I guess this is what you could call the Las Vegas Delta. This is where the wash dumps out back into Lake Mead. And this waterway is what allows the city to recycle the urban and residential water and reuse it again and again and again. So like I said, the reason this is significant is because I came down here back when we were in an El Nino cycle and it was very dry. I'm going to pop some video up on the screen. You can see it. And now here you can see in the middle of winter, it's very lush down here. And all the waterfowl are loving it. So the bay didn't necessarily refill, but you can tell by the water rising here, the banks have become infiltrated with water and it's allowed all this to grow here. So that was just about 2 years ago here now. And back during that video, the sources I cited said that El Nino cycles usually last about 3 to 5 years. So we just didn't get a very good cycle apparently. And where you're looking up this direction, it would have led to Las Vegas Bay, and there was a boat marina up there. So people were bringing houseboats and everything. I'll pop up a picture here. It will be interesting to see in the future what happens with this bay, because just a few decades ago, I would have been underwater right here. As we wrap up today's report, I want to know what you all think about the issues we discussed today. Do you think a looming La Niña will cause another warm and dry period in the Southwest?
That's scary.
Are the burnt scar areas in California in imminent danger of landslides? And will Southwest cities such as Las Vegas be able to balance growth, resources, and water quality all at the same time? Let us know what you think down in the comments. We'll continue to bring you periodic water level updates, and in the meantime, we'll be embarking on brand new adventures this year to document remote mining operations and traces of indigenous life in the desert. Our goal is to better understand the current water and reclamation situation by going back in time to study how life survived in these areas before modern intervention. We know you have a lot of places to get your news and entertainment these days, so we want to thank you for spending some of that time here. Special recognition goes out to our Super Thanks viewer. We got frequent floater Sammy Head from last update. Thank you for the support.
If you found this update informative or learned something of value here today, consider giving us a like and subscribing to the channel for more. Until next time, make sure you stay hydrated, stay happy out there, and we'll see you soon.